Welcome back to yet another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. So before I actually get into what I want to speak about here, I did a separate subject in yesterday's video that I took out just because I didn't really feel like it fit. Probably doesn't even fit this one, but I'm gonna throw it in here anyway, just so you can kind of see my takes regarding the whole Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney saga that's kind of been going on over the last couple of days, you know, which has got history from previous weeks and like about 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, before I get into what I'm going to talk about today, I just want to show you that. But as always, please like and subscribe. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get into that. So Gervonta Davis was on what looked like a Zoom call a couple days ago. I think it was like towards the start of the week. Basically, he was saying that, you know, he put hands on Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney in sparring. Whereas there's also been a story that Devin Haney made him quit in sparring. And Shakur's now also come out and said, look, if you really want to talk about sparring stories, like let's just run it back in real life, seeing as you want to be clinging on to sparring stories. Now, I'm not really a huge fan of sparring stories, but I do like to listen and find out kind of little tidbits of things. And obviously, as we've seen, sparring is sparring, because I put a lot of stock in the Dillian White sparring stories with Tyson Fury, and we see how that turned out back in April. So yeah, but look, ultimately, I remember back a few months back, Shakur was saying, look, don't ask me about Tank Davis because he ain't gonna fight me, and then it's gonna look like I'm trying to beg for a fight that I know ain't on the cards. Ask him about me. And Devin Haney has constantly said, look, I want that fight, but he don't want to fight nobody. Well, on this particular occasion, Shakur is basically saying, well, look, you want to talk about sparring this and that, like, you know what you're saying is pure cap. So if that's really how you want to get it, like, let's go. Like, you know, send me a contract. Like, it's funny how you want to talk, and after you've got 2 fights lined up, now you want to be mentioning my name. Like, essentially, like, what's wrong with you? And you know what? I kind of agree with that. Like, look, realistically, you should be focusing on Hector Garcia and then Ryan Garcia. There's absolutely no reason for you to be talking about Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson. Like, no reason at all. And that's one of those things that I can't really get behind. Like, deal with what you've got to deal with when you're free. Talk all the shit you want to these people when there's no contracts involved, when there's no pre-agreements in place, because ultimately now it just makes you look a bit fraudulent. To me anyway. I mean, I don't know how anyone else feels about it, but that's kind of how I see that situation. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it, but yeah, realistically, I just kind of want everyone to do what they're doing, and then when they're free, then they can all talk and, you know, run it how they need to run it. Okay, so first things first, you might hear some noise in the background. That's the cleaners cleaning some of the other apartments. You know, they're a bit jolly, a bit loud, so apologies, can't really be helped. But outside of that, look, what I kind of wanted to touch on today is I saw a couple of interviews when I was on my way, sort of driving on the motorway up to where I currently am. One of which was the Alex Krassyuk interview with Rob Tebbert, so shout out to Rob, he always does amazing interviews. And also the other one was a George Warren interview talking about sort of, you know, the Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury fight, etc. And so the first thing with the Krassyuk one that I was kind of wanted to touch on, which I thought was kind of very interesting, was that we all remember them saying that they wanted Usyk in December and kind of wanted him. And the narrative was, oh, they're trying to get him when he's just come out of a very hard fight, etc. Because Fury said, oh, you just went through a camp, you just went through 12 rounds, you should be good to be able to go in 3 months. But what basically, the revealing thing, which I didn't actually realize this was exactly the reason why Usyk didn't take that fight in December, was that if you remember, the original fight was supposed to be in June. Then it got moved from June to July. And then they said, okay, well, if it's in July, we've got an opportunity to rest here. We can go through preparation, go through camp, and then we have the fight this day in December, get Christmas, get New Year, and have everything sorted out. And that was all agreed with the Middle East to have. In principle, they had a 2-fight schedule set out with both Usyk and AJ. But then the fight got moved again from July to August. And not just start of August, like the end of August. So at that point, you're looking at recovery times, everything's going to be a bit late and a bit tight. So they then said, well, look, now we just want an extension to, sort of February, early March at the absolute latest, just to be able to get prepped and, sort of have that recovery time and whatever, which I thought was reasonable. But what that basically kind of tells me is that overall, the fault for there being no Undisputed this year, or at least the narrative that Usyk's team didn't want it, or they didn't want it next, blah blah blah, I feel like you could actually probably attribute that more to Eddie and Anthony. Now, I'm not saying that they're to blame for us not having Undisputed right now, but it was that side that was constantly moving back the time and, securing whatever they was doing to secure the deals. Like, you could say they took time. Like, it went from, like I said, it went from June to July to August. So in that space of time, they essentially gave Tyson Fury an out to not have to take this fight next, because he's wanted quote unquote activity. It's a bit, it's a bit of a bitter pill, I suppose. Look, I'm not saying that it was intentional in their part, because ultimately, if AJ had have won, it still wouldn't have been next, just due to the date, because he wouldn't have been able to get out on December 17th, or he would have wanted to push that back to February, March time anyway, just because Joshua don't fight. He just doesn't fight regularly enough, as we know. So yeah, that was kind of something I just kind of wanted to put out there. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but I feel as if that's something that I took quite great interest on from that interview, that it would have been Undisputed this year next without question, or at least with not being able to give Tyson Fury an excuse to go and do something else, if it wasn't for Matchroom and Joshua's team taking long with the negotiations, taking long with getting the site fee sorted out and all of that stuff. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. For anyone who's always thinking that I'm team Matchroom or team DAZN or whatever, not like, if I feel like they're at fault for something, I will always state that. That being said, there was something else. So I was watching a live with Ade the other day. Actually, no, it wasn't even his live. Shout out to Ade, by the way, but it wasn't his live. It was one of his videos where he's basically said that George Warren confirmed that there will be 60,000 people in attendance. Like 60,000 people have bought tickets. So I watched that other interview with George Warren on ID Boxing, and what he basically said, he said, okay, look, we've got sales of 60,000, so we expect to see 60,000 there. Now, we all know, we've all seen these secondary markets, so if it's full later on, then cool, it's full. But something that he said reminded me of something that Frank Warren said a little while ago, which also reminded me of something that Ade said in the video, when he said that, look, we have to accept that Tyson Fury is a draw, like he's a ticket seller, because the people that he's going in with, they're not like the biggest and the greatest of names, but yet he's selling out this amount, that amount. And even if there was only 70,000 people at Wembley, that's still 70,000. If there ends up being 50 to 60,000 here, then he's still a ticket seller. But then George Warren said something in his interview which made me say to myself, okay, that sounds interesting, because when they were speaking about the potential opponents for this fight, he goes, well, at the end of the day, you can have any of these other people that maybe us in the hardcore world, or the people that are in the industry, know them, be a decent test, but the person on the street have no idea. So they've got to work on their marketability. They've got to work on their brand and get their name up, which is fair. But then, if Tyson Fury is a star, why does his opponent have to work on their brand if everyone's only just going to see him anyway? See, the narrative was, well, it was the Tyson Fury show. Dillian Whyte was just along for the ride. But you don't get, quote unquote, 94,000 in the stadium if it was Tyson Fury versus someone that the British public doesn't know. Dillian Whyte had his own crowd there, and Tyson Fury had his. On this second fight, you say, well, we wanted AJ, couldn't get AJ, wanted Usyk, Usyk wouldn't be ready until next year, so we go down the list and we look for someone else with a big market value who can help promote and sell the fight. Well, why do you need someone else to help you promote and sell the fight if Tyson Fury is a draw? So when Anthony Joshua fought Carlos Takam at Cardiff in front of, what was it, 75, 80,000 people? Did anyone know who Carlos Takam was? I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. Joseph Parker at Cardiff, what about him? No one knew who Joseph Parker was. The most intrigue you had there was the fact it was a unification fight, but that was, I'm not going to say it was sold out to the point of there was not one empty seat in the house, but I was there and it was jam-packed. Alexander Povetkin, yeah, people kind of know Povetkin, but again, he's not no big domestic British name. So then you say to yourself, well, Anthony Joshua's out here putting on big events against sold out crowds with quote unquote unknowns. Usyk, okay, you give him Usyk because Usyk was in the main event with Tony Bellew, so the crowd would have kind of known him from that knockout. So, all right, you maybe give him that one. But my point being, nobody can say that they knew who Carlos Takam was. And even Kubrat Pulev, because nobody saw Pulev versus Klitschko if they weren't a hardcore fan. So nobody knew who that IBF mandatory was, yet the arena was pretty much sold out. They didn't know Takam, who was the replacement. No one gave back the tickets, like, you know, that was, the arena stayed sold out. Povetkin, Parker, like all of these were near capacity. I'm not going to say they were full capacity, I don't know, but they were near capacity. And these were all with people that weren't British, that didn't have British profiles, that weren't known to the mass casual market, yet they still done super pay-per-view, and they pretty much filled the stadiums and filled all the seats. So then why do you need a name to go against Tyson Fury if he's this big star and he's this draw? How does that make sense? That's my question. And this isn't even a shit on Tyson Fury video. It's not that. I'm just trying to make clear and dispel a narrative that I'm hearing that Fury is this big star. He's the top guy in the division. Cool, we can give him that. But in terms of being this big mainstay attraction, well, if that was the case, you could have fought any of the other people on that top 10, top 15 WBC list and got a crowd, right? Because everyone's coming to see Fury anyway. They're not really, you know, or are they coming to see Derek? Were they coming to see Dillian? What is the reason? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say he's this massive star, but then say, well, there was no one else to face who generated a good market buzz or had a profile that we could market. Well, how does that work? I need someone to kind of answer that. That's kind of all I really wanted to speak about. But while I am actually here, another question. So we talk about, one of the main things, right, is that we've seen Chisora, we've seen Fury twice, and both times Fury's won. First time was, you know, fairly comprehensive. Second time was a stoppage by the corner. So we're like, well, 8 years later, do we really want to see it again? No, especially not when you have to pay £27 for it or whatever. But then I was thinking the other day, well, hold on a minute. You've got Daniel Dubois on the undercard, who's supposed to be your next big guy, or the guy that you're really pushing, who you're calling a champion at this point, WBA regular champion. So he's a champion, right? why didn't you put Daniel Dubois in there with Tyson Fury? I mean, if you say that Fury is better than everyone anyway, would a loss to Tyson Fury really have mattered to Daniel Dubois at the age of what, 24, 25? He could rebound off of that loss. That's not like losing to an up-and-coming contender. Like, you lost to the greatest guy in the division. That's not going to hurt your stock at all. But you could also win. I mean, if you're a champion, as you're being marketed as, why wasn't that the fight? That seems to me like an obvious fight to make. They're both on the exact same schedule because they're fighting on the exact same card. So what was the reason for that fight not being able to be made? Why did it have to be Derek Chisora? That's my question. I'm just really sort of trying to spitball, trying to collate some thoughts and understand how we've arrived at this situation. Now, pay-per-view buys, I mean, I don't know what that's gonna do. Again, as you guys know, I haven't really spoken about it. This video wasn't even necessarily about Fury as such, and even that fight. It's just sort of, you know, getting some thoughts off of my head as to certain things. So yeah, look, if you get a chance to watch this, leave your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. But to summarize, it looks like it was Team AJ's fault that Fury had an excuse not to do the Undisputed fight next and take this fight with Derek Chisora, because they delayed the fight, the rematch between Usyk and Joshua by like a month and a half, 2 months, from June all the way through to August. Then you've got, you know, Fury's quote unquote being a draw and being this big ticket seller, but yet has to have British opponents that people know to make it attractive and make it viable to sell the tickets. And then why not Daniel Dubois, seeing as he's already on the exact same card? Like, why did it have to be Chisora when Daniel Dubois was a fresh opponent that would have given more intrigue? Anyway, yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Like and subscribe as always. Thanks for watching. Sorry if it's a bit rambly, like, you know, sometimes I just get like that. I just wanted to get these thoughts out. But yeah, until next time, Hardcore Casual out.